Guy, what would you say in terms of the players here? What's your advice from the operator perspective in terms of working with a gigantic ship like Telstra? How can they engage? How can they make use of this new way of delivering services?
Well, thank you. I would say that we all should encourage an open platform approach and encourage the API type of thinking, if you'd like to call it this way, so we can make reusable components. So my word is reusability, right? Make yourself reusable. Customizing things again and again and again actually might look very tempting in the beginning, but actually stops progress very quickly after. Yeah. So that is my request from everybody that comes to work with us, pretty much.
How would you react to that? So are you excited by this prospect of a sort of a more virtualized?
So at Intel, we've been working with the telecommunication service providers for over a decade. And one of the first requests that they brought to us was, where's my Moore's Law? Why can't I run whatever I want on the equipment I have deployed? Because they know that they have amazing assets. And so this journey of network transformation has been really interesting from two perspectives. We work across all the cloud service providers, and we work with all the comms service providers as well. And that general building block, the API accessibility, the ability to use telemetry and orchestration, what I've heard from most cloud service providers is they don't actually want to be an operator. They just want to interact with the operators the way they manage their own environments.
Yeah. Now Red Hat, it's undergoing a transformation itself, but also a different kind of sort of new era for Red Hat. I don't know how much you can talk about that, but tell us what you feel about this approach from Telstra.
I think Guy's approach is fantastic. I think the word he brought up is actually reusability. We've been kind of preaching reusability microservices model to the IT industry for ages. And they've started to transform the IT businesses. Now I think the move has to go from IT to the network side of that business. And see Guy's shaking his head, so he agrees with me.
Yeah. Nodding his head.
Nodding his head, absolutely. There are some interesting challenges in that domain. I think part of the ecosystem that needs to be built in order to drive that change in terms of the vision that Guy has put out a moment ago is necessary. Everybody needs to be aligned to that particular ecosystem. I mean, infrastructure transformations, making networks look more like IT stuff that was done in terms of what he mentioned was critical to actually create an abstraction layer. I mean, that abstraction layer, in my opinion, can go further up in the stack as you move. So our vision really is to create an infrastructure that completely abstracts and masks what's running underneath it, what type of hardware is running there, what accelerators are running there, and provide any type of capability, any application to run on top, whether it's running as a microservice, whether it's running as a virtual machine, whether it's running as a container, whether it's running as whatever. But it needs to get that experience as possible. Only then you can achieve what he wants to achieve and what Lynn's been talking about.
Yeah. So from the gaming approach, Olivier, how excited are you about the sort of the transformation and what it can do for gamers and for the gaming industry?
Right. So my company is providing a cloud gaming service, right? And our biggest challenge is actually to get access to scalable and global cloud. And what Guy just described, with the capacity to actually have a catalog and really quickly roll out new features, and this also across operators, is actually a step, providing an answer to this issue. So it's very exciting to see this happening, to see this initiative from operators to actually provide these kind of functions that will allow us not only to provide bandwidth, but also compute, storage, and all this kind of function at the network level. So I think I'm very excited to see this happening, right?
Yeah. I think, didn't you say something about programmable network and being able to get the quality of service and for the gaming environment? I know so many gamers, I'm sure you know more, they would absolutely pay for that.
Yeah.
And
it's all about quality and low latency and all of the things
jitter in the telecommunications industry hasn't been a good thing. When you have different latency rates and you're playing first-person shooter or battle royale games, you don't live very long.
Yeah. Absolutely. A packet loss could be the difference between life and death, right?
Literally, yes.
Guarantee of delivery is, what is important. Timely delivery, right? Now, there's one thing to expose some of that material to the people who are using on top from an API and content, from an infrastructure management perspective. It's another thing to actually say, I need actually a system that doesn't worry about this, it automatically takes care of it. So then you can apply things at the infrastructure layer, like machine learning, like AI, to actually automatically transform the infrastructure. So we're talking about autonomous networks, we're talking about autonomous infrastructure. And yes, we are at a point where we have certain latency demands, certain bandwidth demands. From HD1 to UHD, you go from 8 megabits to 24. Suddenly it's threefold increase. So those type of demands will create that spike. But at the point of Guy, I think earlier was, he's now abstracting the network. I want to see him abstract another layer up on top at some point.
Thank you very much. I think the first, eat your own dog food, they say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I think that's the key to quality.
Absolutely.
Honestly.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So the key to quality is eat your own dog food. There is a lot of dog food to eat on the journey before it's going to get exposed to a monetizable layer that is then able. But I'll tell you what, my personal dream is, and is aligned with Telstra targets, but my personal dream is that we almost become an operating system to the point that people write applications on top of Telstra, that are taking, taking this Lego brick approach and make it happen.
Absolutely.
But I also would be very realistic. The journey is still ahead of us in terms of transforming inside to the point that we can really be certain that we're going out there with something like that. But yes.
Yeah. So how do you guys see this panning out, virtualization across both the operator side, but also across the ecosystem more broadly? And then at what point do you think media and entertainment can really start to reap the awards in its many forms? How do you see that journey? Years away or?
Well, it depends on what infrastructure you're talking about. There are already virtualized environments that are CPU-based doing high-end Hollywood quality rendering effects. And so that is a virtualized environment. It is a sea of cores. And then many of the clouds are seas of cores, and there's a lot of services on that. So I think that there are success stories that you can bring into these environments and then take advantage of what is a uniquely distributed architecture. To your point about blockchain earlier, you can take advantage and do things with highly distributed infrastructure, which is a network, especially when the network is the cloud as well.
Yeah. To make this kind of architecture really global and scalable, because this is one of the challenge actually in my area, right? I think if you are playing Fortnite, you want to play Fortnite with friends all over the world, right? Not just with one operator's customers, right? So I think your friends are all over. So if you want to do this, I don't think this will be actually the challenge of just one company, right? I think it's probably a question of ecosystem that need to be built around it, right? And there is some attempts to build such an ecosystem like Edge Gravity, from Ericsson and others, right? So I think this kind of thing are probably the way, you are talking about the journey. So how can we go from this and the initiative from some operators to something that is really global and scalable? And I think such initiatives would probably bring up a part of the answer.
Mark, to the question of virtualization and how it can help, I think Lynn's point was spot on, which is this virtualization that exists, but I think it needs to go one more level further in terms of disaggregation that he wants, right? The disaggregation to make it reusable, the disaggregation to make it more available, and the disaggregation that allows you to actually go to what he wants, which is edge and distribution. I think edge, 5G edge, will play a massive, massive role in terms of how infrastructure is built, managed to deliver the quality of experience that he wants.
In the end, people. So I have a test audience that lives in my house for cloud gaming. And what's really fascinating is they really are not differentiating between IRL, which is an acronym for in real life, and engaging online. And that point about needing on-demand cloud and the transformed network to operate like they're a seamless infrastructure, that is the kind of experiences that the Gen Z and younger, that's going to be normal for them.
Are
And
they
then-
willing to pay for it, though? I mean, that
Yes.
high quality experience with all this investment?
They actually right now are willing to spend their parents' money.
Yeah.
Yes.
In addition to this, they are looking also for a real ubiquity of this experience because I currently have this, maybe on fiber network.
Right.
But this population, with the evolution of audio and video being available everywhere, are used to get their, content services and their application everywhere. So if I can play Fortnite with very low latency at home, I want to play Fortnite with very low latency everywhere, right? Yeah. And this is the kind of thing that 5G can actually bring. In addition to this, I've got also a population home which is very different, from yours, Lynn, which is basically my mother-in-law, right? Oh. So she's over 60 and she's playing games, right? So she likes it. She's playing games on her phone for the moment, but she likes to have simple access, simple discovery of new games. And I think a service provided actually from the cloud in an efficient way can also be, a market, right? These people don't want to install an application, know how to disinstall it, all this kind of mess, right? So that could be also an interesting target.
Yeah, they don't want to think about the edge, but they certainly will appreciate being able to take advantage of it.
Yeah. So, Guy, I know going in a second, but you've got a lot of relationships. I know you think gaming a lot more because you talk to me about gaming and what you've seen. You seem to be very focused on that area. Do you? And obviously, Telstra has some great sports assets and sports relationships. Do you see this helping to exploding in sports or gaming? Do you think which is the biggest opportunity, esports, in terms of this next evolution of the networks?
I can only tell you my last gaming conference in Melbourne, which occupied the Melbourne Convention Centre and was in its fullity, which is maybe hall 6 and hall 7 kind of stretched for you. Okay, gamers, absolutely crazy. I took my boys with me. There was an age limitation. You had to be 16-year-old and above, sometimes 18-year-old and above. Most of the participants were people with credit cards. Now, I'm not a sportsman myself, so I don't go to the big sports events. I'm sure they're the same. Which one of the two is going to pay more, I don't know yet. But which one has more opportunity to collaborate people from multi-geographies? Probably gaming.
Mark,
as not spectators, as we call them, but because the esports would have commentators a lot, and that's one revenue stream that comes you from commentating, social media, social networking, etc. But the gamers, they collaborate, and they collaborate also. They come to do something interactively, and they'll pay for the experience of having a clean 5G super fast thing. So, but I really don't know which one of the two. So that's a trick question.
It's going to be, the next big mass market for entertainment.
For sure, gaming, right? I mean, I think gaming is becoming really popular in Korea, in the United States, in Australia and other places. But talking about just massive sports venues, sports, live broadcast. The traditional model is changing completely. The traditional model was, you acquire content, you process content, and then you broadcast it on TV. Now it's about broadcasting simultaneously, doing a simulcast on the internet. Now you're talking about mobile, consumption of that particular same content, multi-camera view, multi-angle, and then commentary, and then social media interaction with the content that's actually
user-generated content.
Exactly. So that has completely transformed the experience. And if you take these traditional providers who are in the business of doing broadcast, are now creating alternative platforms on the internet and on the IP domains and cloud environments to be able to address that kind of market interaction to keep the subscribers, the customers, the viewers. That's how they make money eventually. So an infrastructure, I mean, it's thinking about it in traditional terms, in terms of building an infrastructure, creating that particular software platform, creating that particular environment that addresses the traditional needs where there might still be some consumption models, but then changing it to this environment is a big order, tall order, but people are moving.
Yeah, it's so important to have flexible infrastructure because there's a level of interactivity that's becoming an expected standard. And we have been optimized for more of a one-directional interaction.
Yeah.
And cloud gaming, I think, is the extreme example. But even things, some of this new series where you can pick your way through a story, or some of the creative environments where they're creating their own channels, it turns the model a bit on its own head.
Yeah, I think we're really at a very interesting moment because, Mark, like you, I was in this industry for a couple of, decades now, right? And each time there was a new network rollout, people were looking at the killer application that will actually help monetize the investments, right? We are very lucky here, I think, because indeed, we have seen, monetization of audio and video stream and so on, and indeed, gaming is becoming massive, as a social phenomenon. This is really happening. It's happening at the same time where we have the 5G rollout and all the edge stuff happening that is going to enable this and to allow these kind of things on the go, right? So, I feel we are really, really lucky about this. We don't have actually to look, further. I think there is something really exciting for everybody, which is massive, from young people to elderly, that's going to actually be okay to monetize. Whether this is a network experience or the whole stuff, we will figure it out, but that's great.
So I want to say something important on that one, on the monetize. And again, this is my personal approach to that and why we're doing what we're doing. I think for the companies like Olivier's and others, right, we should be enabling them to deliver their dream so people can enjoy games. Okay, and it's all about that enablement that needs to happen. And maybe the job of the telco in the future is allowing you to come to Australia with your business in an easy way. If you think about Nintendo Switch, for example, that had to just publish Smash Brothers Ultimate with it's an online. I kind of felt not sorry, but I've said, wow, what a project. Find cloud, find hosts, pick it up, test it, program it, online, billing, They probably were miserable before they got to the outcome of me playing Smash. But would not is the job of us, the operators, to make it
like that,
just
easy
like
to
that?
just
Okay,
a layer on the
and they'll do it, and we will make our assets monetizable, available to them in a way that it's easy and accessible.
But big investments, edge computing and some of these things, big investments, is there going to be a return on these kind of investments?
That's the point on the monetization that, Guy mentioned, I think, which is really interesting. But look, I have doubts that, individual, will buy actually some kind of subscription plus to the network so that they have great gaming. I'm not sure about this, really, frankly, because they are taking this for granted that the network should be good, right? But a company like mine, actually, would be interested to pay something to get my game accessible everywhere, because this enables me to get, access to people and to actually pay for this infrastructure that, Guy want to provide to me, right? Like compute at the edge, like a good bandwidth, like all these kind of things. So I think, luckily, my business model is based on subscription, rev share, this kind of thing. So there could be a way to make the P&L work well and to get also these guys get a share of their cake, right?
Yeah.
So let me say one thing, one data point, right? 1% of buffering from a network perspective or from an infrastructure perspective, you lose more than 5% of your audience.
Yeah.
Right? And if you take...
Netflix kind of solved that, didn't it, with some pretty...
So what did Netflix do?
Interesting compression.
Exactly. Compression was one. Deploying CDNs at the edge.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
The edge is there.
Right.
It's
the
there.
edge is there.
There are edges, yes.
Yeah.
However, to go from there, from a streaming media requirement for the edge to an immersion application for the edge is a big leap.
Vast difference, yeah.
It's a big leap. You can still host in a regional data center a content cache node and optimize your cache ratios, right, to do better in terms of caching. But you can't do that when you're going into an augmented reality, a virtual reality, an immersion app. Now, a few years from now, I hope to actually have this panel in holographic fashion. How would you do that?
Yeah.
There you go.
Imagine I'm
Very
sitting in
interesting,
Boston, she's in Portland,
Yeah.
he's in Australia, and
Like
he's in Germany. Can we have that panel in a holographic presence way? Perhaps.
Would the audience come, though? Would
Yeah.
they be interested in that? I mean, that's...
Oh, they'd probably be sitting in their home watching in the bed.
You would be so surprised how popular some of these e-broadcasting models are. You know, when you look at what some of the most popular Twitch streamers are actually making in sponsorships, you know, parents, yes, it's better for your kids to be programmers, but Ninja is making a lot of money per month. And he had a Super Bowl, or not a Super Bowl commercial, a Sunday Night Football commercial. So there is so much interactivity. And again, the younger generations don't consider it abnormal to be chatting their friends who live 2 streets over while they're watching a game stream or an event. It's just the way that they interact. It's the way they consume technology.
Yeah, the point is Edge has to move much
Yes.
closer to the subscriber
Yeah.
to make that happen.
Many of the operators talked about Edge all of 2017. It was like part of 2018. They went, what exactly do we have at the Edge? And they realized they do have assets there, and there's a transformation that's under the way. So it was actually a better answer, I think, in many cases than they expected.
So that was an awesome presentation, or at least the concept that from Guy there. You know, other media and entertainment players, the broadcasters steeped in legacy, do you think that they are going to be able to become as agile as they need to be to compete with better, more compelling, more interactive, more immersive content like the gaming industry, the speed and pace at which the gaming industry is moving? Or will they're just not going to be able to get there? Will they lose the younger players before they've grown up? I mean,
the traditional, I don't know. As Lynn mentioned, Netflix is putting interactive content now into their series or linear TV, right? So I think this is happening, right? And I think there is a competition now on the eyeballs. If you look at the last earning report from Netflix, they say that their competitor is actually more Fortnite
is Game of Thrones
than
Exactly.
HBO, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is really becoming big at the point where this industry is actually worried, that this is happening. Right. Luckily, if you look at it, a company like Disney, like Warner, now with AT&T, they also have great assets in terms of games. Okay, and they've already been in this gaming business. So I think the same way as you mentioned in your introductory speech, they are investing, 14 billion or 20 billion into content. Likely, they're also going to invest billions into interactive content and games.
But back to that traditional broadcast. I mean, you've done some interesting things about LTE-B broadcasts from stadiums, but the traditional broadcasters, my question, I guess, was, are they just going to be left behind in some of this because there's so much legacy? The Netflixes are able because they're more nimble. They've come through quickly as an OTT, but the traditional broadcasters.
I think, Mark, there is I'd make a small distinction. The distinction I'd make is you have to be in content business. Whether you're a traditional broadcaster or an OTT player, it doesn't matter. You have to be in content business. Original content matters.
Yeah.
You've seen that with Amazon, you've seen that with Netflix, you've seen that with everybody. So now then the infrastructure provides a pipe to deliver that capability in a seamless manner with a much better quality of experience. So to me, it's more about content acquisition. It's about efficiency in transportation. It's about timely delivery. It's about, everything that needs to happen, transcoders, this, that, all that should be hidden in the context of complexity.
I think that they actually have an incredible opportunity because if you think about what you invest in content,
Right.
you invest in content for a very singular experience. And then you have the toys and the lunch boxes and everything that goes with that. But many of the content owners have expressed this desire that we would love to be able to take the content that we've invested in and much more easily have these interactive experiences. And so the digital environment makes it possible as well as gives them an opportunity to do their own delivery.
I mean, look at Golden Globe Awards and look at the Oscars and so on and so forth. You'll see pretty much the content that was delivered by these type of OTT companies is actually now in mainstream. That's what people are consuming more online than they're actually flipping a channel on a TV to watch that.
I think that if the broadcasters shift their mindset to look at what assets they have and realize that what their audiences want is an intelligent visual experience.
Right.
They have tools and building
immersive.
Immersive, yes.
Absolutely.
They want to create, they want to connect, they want to immerse themselves. And really the stories and the brands are what people want to interact with. And so they have an opportunity.
The other thing I would add to that would be you're shifting from a consumer world to a prosumer world, where, all we did was flip channels on TV, and somebody was actually preparing content, somebody was broadcasting it, somebody was delivering it. Now, it's I'm delivering content. You're delivering content. So everybody's become a consumer and a producer at the same time.
That's true.
So the dynamics of the infrastructure
Completely, the audience has
completely
changed.
change.
Yes.
Yeah.
The audience changes, the dynamics change, the capabilities change, the nimbleness has to be there. Cloud and 5G and this is incredibly important.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm just keeping my eye because there are questions coming in here on the Glisser platform here. Why can't you cache augmented reality content? That one is an interesting one. Anybody?
Actually, augmented reality is all about actually taking your location presence and marrying that to existing content. So you absolutely can cache augmented reality content. That's possible. However, from wherever you cache, you still have to deliver it in a time frame when the user is pointing a device to a certain direction, and you're actually delivering content immediately to that particular user. You can't have a user point in this direction and move this way when you're actually showing from that.
So it's like
that location and where you cache it and how you deliver it becomes incredibly important.
We had a little conversation almost on that 2 days ago or one day ago.
It was on Monday,
So
exactly.
here's my point, and I like the word transformation. The game companies, the content companies, they deliver your content using a certain format, which is old.
That's also, that's absolutely.
Okay? Now, they are tied into their brand field, legacy, content, and their almost entire content production is coupled into the format and the way and the limitation of whatever they do. So number one, the transformation or for the promises to be delivered, this needs to go through into the gaming company. And I'll give you example, Fortnite. Hey? Fortnite is sent to you, and it's got your character and the actual background and the render itself. If you think about it, you can play Fortnite without the background. You still be killing each other, same way with the background or without the background. Might be even more fun without the background, right? The problem at the moment with the delivery of this content is coupled. The background and you are coupled on the same stream of bits. So when you ask if you can cache this stuff, is for this to really become a reality, the openness that I preach all over when I talk about it has to go all the way to the game company where they allow you to consume the render and the actual character as separate streams. Then you can start doing some real optimization, okay, to deliver stuff. Yeah. So again, people have to change all over to the edge.
Yeah. So we're getting close to the end. This has gone. I mean, we could carry on all day. But do we think that gaming is the killer app going to be a killer app for 5G or cloud gaming, video gaming in all its forms? Is it going to be the most compelling form of content in the future?
The kind of nice thing that is happening indeed is that 5G is bringing good things for games, right? I think the low latency, predictable jitter, lower packet loss, and that's arriving now. And then later on, compute on the cloud and augmenting the density of this compute with things like Intel is doing and all this kind of great stuff. And this is really enabling gaming. And as you mentioned, Mark, I see it as a journey. It's not going to happen in one go, right? I think it's going to happen maybe with bandwidth and then with compute on the cloud. And then maybe, as Guy mentioned, the network is going to be an operating system for which game developers are going to develop games, right? So that I think would be the ultimate vision.
Yeah.
Right?
I do think that if we look back at where we were with 4G and what are we going to do with 4G, I think that, yes, cloud gaming represents something that matches really well with the characteristics of 5G plus edge. But I have the feeling that if we have this flexible platform, from months to minutes, being able to get the service procured and just do it, then we're going to see a completely new ecosystem that is going to astonish us because we'll allow so much innovation to happen that much more easily.
So an agile approach to driving content based on what audiences want and being able to do it much more effectively, efficiently. So
my point is, I think anything, any type of immersion, applications, whether it's gaming, whether it is, holographic calling, whether it is, something else, that would be the killer app in the context of delivering 5G.
Shows how passionate he is. He told me he had to go to the airport 20 minutes ago.
Miss your plane,
That's all right.
But he couldn't leave this conversation.
No, I couldn't. It was interesting.
You're going to say
one more
thing, and
I'll just say my mantra. It's a platform world. It's a platform economy. Our job is to make our customer and their customers successful. That's the real job, I think, of the telco of the future.
Yeah. Guys, this has been an absolutely fascinating conversation, and we could go on, as I say. Just want to say thank you so much to all of you,
Thank you.
and for joining us here today, and thank you to you for coming to listen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.